and welcome to this session of LitFestx. We have with us Piers, who has worked as a farmer, boat driver, as a surfing instructor, poetry teacher, and a baker. Uh, Piers has traveled widely and contributed to many literary, travel, and environmental publications, including the Daily Telegraph, the Times Literary Supplement, Ecologist, Traveller, and Earth Island Journal. He's the author of Honey and Dust, which was the winner of D.H. Lawrence Prize for travel writing, and his second book was And All Kinds of Magic. We are discussing his last book, which was Kaleidoscope City, which is a book about Varanasi and his time there. Piers, welcome to LitFestx, and it's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Kumaar.
So, Piers, why, off the bat, why Varanasi? Why did you choose this city in India?
My first trip to India, I was traveling up towards Nepal, honey book, and I was going to try to find some of the people who still hunt wild honey in the Annapurna. It was more like a way station. I just happened to stop there, as many people, I'm sure, feel when they get out in Varanasi. I had never seen anything like it. All my travel was just in an instant nothing beside the extraordinary place I found myself in. And some knew that I have to spend a week on that first trip. Then as soon as I could, 2 weeks. Then I came back for a month. And every time I went away with a sense of, oh no, I need some unfinished richness of the city. So it became a kind of a few years. And finally I thought, after all, you know what, there's no place I want to be more than Varanasi. And also I realized no Westerner has written a kind of non-academic book about Varanasi. There's lots of erudite academic books, but no one had written a travelogue, so I saw the opportunity.
And how long were you there, and what was the period of your research and sort of observation and fact finding in Varanasi?
Well, it was about a year, so nothing really in the greater scale of things. Commercial pressures to do it in that time. But actually, when I gone there, I thought, I'm going to write a book from the first person in the way I had my two books. And then very quickly I realized, I can't write the book like that. I can't write the book as if I'm an authority on the subject, because in a year you cannot be. So that's why I took this other approach, trying to have other people speak about their experiences, because it just seemed like otherwise I would be writing as if I knew, as if I was some kind of authority, and I wanted to avoid that and just put forward people's perspectives on their lives as I found them myself.
Right. Varanasi, of course, in India is mired in a shroud of spirituality. And what was your experience there?
Well, that was certainly one of the attractions for me. I mean, I don't know whether any of your viewers would have read my other books, but essentially my first book was my recovery from a hit and run accident. I got knocked off my bicycle, truck, almost died, and as many people find in those experiences, you start to rethink everything. And of course, coming to India is a country where those kind of big questions are far more part and parcel of daily existence than I have found in my own culture. So there was a great sense of, and of course, coming to Varanasi, you're going to the center of that. That was definitely one of the attractions, was the wisdom that exists there, the teachers, the living traditions, a sense of people have been beside the river here for, as perhaps longer than in any other living city, asking the big question. So that there's that physical sense, and there's also a felt sense. I just felt something really, really strong, some energetic quality that is very mysterious. Really, when you read the scriptures, make sense to me. There is special there.
Yeah. Piers, the reason I said mired in a shroud of spirituality is because we also are somewhat aware of the filth and dirt in Varanasi, both physically as well as even you have written about, well, the dark side. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the pollution, I have to say, I found very rough. I got ill so many times. Just found my body. I was sort of in my 30s then. I realized it's not as strong as it was, and I took a toll. So, so I mean, I don't know what to say about that other than that, there's all kinds of environmental issues that other people have written about. I just amazes me is the way people survive in those and with joy. And there's that quality that someone told me about of Masti in Varanasi, that love of life. And I really, I made friends with a rickshaw waller and his family who live in basically a slum not far from Asigat. And there's a very hard life they have, and there's just rivers of shit running right past their front. But still, there's a great unity and a great pride, and that's the paradox of those two things.
So we've also seen the city come again in the limelight of late because of our current prime minister's relationship with the city. And what was your experience with regards to that angle?
Yes, I mean, I was there just before in the sort of run up to the election, ready by the time the election happened, and of course to see the city get some spotlight. So I'd had a lot of dealings with some people who were trying to get Varanasi into UNESCO, and so there was a strong sense of the great jewels of our world, and but UNESCO keeps refusing their infrastructure and so forth, and so I felt wanted to say, oh, well, I'm going to clean my mother, and all these very gestures, some real hope, as I think a lot of something would change. And then, of course, it's very depressing to have one's learned about politicians when nothing happens, and you realize, well, they're just drumming up votes on the campaign trail, and nothing gets done because I've just been there again. The river's filthier than it was. Took a boat down towards Rajghat, and we came around a bend in the river, and literally there were 2 feet of foam on top of the water with a smell so toxic. And but these are difficult things for me as an outsider to talk about, because I hugely recognize the challenges of India's population, India's quickly changing economy, the difficulties in reforming this infrastructure, people to be more environmentally friendly. But I do want to say to Mr. Modi that I think you need to make good on your promises, and that city, even from an economic perspective, if you think about what Varanasi could bring just as a tourist destination, not to mention the much more important kind of spiritual to India itself. So I feel there's a huge for him to do what he says he's going to do.
Speaking of tourism, Westerners have had a sort of love-hate relationship with places such as Varanasi in India. Everybody wants to go there, but once they're there, not everyone likes it because of various reasons. What has been your overall feeling when you interact with other people from the Western world who've traveled and lived in Varanasi?
I think at most, well, there's been a kind of 50-50. You know, one person said he referred to it as very nice, which I thought was funny. But is that Westerners are not prepared for the crowds, eat, and all stuff. I think the more serious travelers, the people who've actually been outside their comfort zone quite a bit, really, this isn't a city you can kind of go to in a few days and kind of off the tourist attractions. You know, so what I told, when you go there, you do as little as possible. You find a place where you can take refuge, keep quiet, and then you go out, and you just sit and watch, and you say, okay, I'm going to go and get it, and you just sit, watch, learn, and then the city comes. You can't go looking for it. But I think a lot of people approach it as if it's something on their checklist that they can just in, and it isn't like that. It's something you have to let come to you, and then you go back and keep quiet. I think people find it difficult, but at the same time, an amazing response. People feel and it's weird. When I go to Venice, I mean, I like it. It's beautiful, but I don't feel any kind of soul connection. How can people from cultures all over the world go to really feel some part of their humanity has been lit up? Why that is, but they feel it, and the real treasure of that city.
But Piers, Varanasi, like many other cities in India, is steeped in phenomenal culture, and there's great food, music, sweets, the entire atmosphere of spirituality, and then you will find the artis and the puja and the chanting going on day in day out, pretty much throughout the day at various parts of the city. What was your experience as a Westerner absorbing all of that, and what did you think the local people, were they open to sort of bringing you in into these rituals and into these daily activities?
So that the challenges of writing the book is that I think naively I imagined that people would be people welcoming, but still, as a writer, you want to know to make you want to know the intricacies of people's life. Proved very quickly very difficult. So, for example, I I was an introduction to this family of Muslim weavers, and they're really some of the masters of the handlooms. And see that if I wanted to write about weaving, they would provide an amazing. I went back there day after day. It's just not part of their. I mean, I'd have years for them to really speak honestly about their experience to me. It's very, very challenging. Is how can I trust me enough for them to speak about the stuff that's important in terms of me selfishly for what I need, because so that's one of the difficulties. My Hindi is not great, and at the same time there was an extraordinary, well, in many ways I think that makes that easier. So for example, caste is not a factor in my interactions. I can talk to any caste, and I don't think there's any which may or may not be a factor with an Indian journalist. I've got a journalist friend from Delhi who said, you experiences that would not have been possible for me simply because they know who I am. Mostly I felt incredibly welcome. You just have to ask someone to talk about it, and they start smiling, sometimes weeping, because it's for the most part inspiration, I think. And so I visited Raja who burned the bodies and spent quite a lot of time they live and how they do their work with the sweet makers, which was hugely fun. And is a chapter about the prostitution in the city, and was one of the most difficult chapter probably to write, and I almost abandoned writing that. But then I had this introduction to an amazing local Guria, and the head of Guria called Ajit Singh, who is an extraordinary man, a national treasure, I think. And he made that chapter possible for me. So um, yeah, I think of there's many friends there, each of who could kind of break through into a particular subject matter.
That's very interesting, Piers. So you made a lot of friends, and did you get enough mithai, the desserts in India in Varanasi?
I'd seen Mithai as in sort of in Crawley and some of the Indian suburbs of London, and just they look bizarre to me. I didn't They're brightly coloured, and they're so different for the sweets I was used to, so I overlooked them. Then when I got to Varanasi, and I was like, this is an unbelievable, the intricacies of that tradition, the the different sweets, the passion people have for them. So, and I love writing about, always have. In my honey book, I wrote a chapter on back. So I thought this would be a great way to explore the celebratory aspects of the city, because I was giving Ganesh's ladus and so forth. So I thought this brings in the love of life, the many in the city, the ancient relationship with the cow. All of this is there in the Mithai, and I found that as I went, the city exploring it, it was really fun to write out. I remember going down one of the gullies and seeing an ancient karahi over, and there was boiling sugar in it, and there were two mice running around the rim of the karahi. So I have this idea in the back of my mind to maybe write a children's book called The Mice in the Mithai Shop, because I feel I had this lovely idea of the mice living under this Mithai shop, just enjoying all the art falling into the sugar from time to time and becoming.
So are we going to see that book soon?
Well, it's just depends. I've had a daughter now since 2 years, and so we're reading her some children's books, and I just think it would be fun to do. So if I can find the right illustrator, I just thought it would be a lovely, fun project, because I could imagine illustrations as well being really special of the city, kind of Royal Quentin Blake type illustration. For now, I haven't started it.
That sounds nice and interesting. So what are you working on currently, Piers?
So, travel writing is a very tough business these days. It's tough mostly because I now have a family and I can't just kind of veer off a couple of years. It's tough financially because, traveling's got more expensive. When I first went to India, I could easily live off a few hundred rupees a day. Did for years, and now you just can't do that. So there's those pressures. Actually, I'm working on a crime novel. As simple as I needed to do something that would be used while I, keep on writing. So it's a kind of noir type novel, and I just write it with a smile on my face. The vision for it, and it's radically different from anything I've done before. But it amuses me, and some inner part of self can have these adventures in another world.
How very interesting. So we'd like to bring the session to an end now, and thank you so much for joining us on LitFestx, and good luck with your new book, and wish you have a good time with your family back home.
All right, thanks, Kumaar.